Trade Union Federation Cosatu and its affiliates are set to protest nationwide on Thursday. The protest is aimed at voicing their unhappiness with the state of the economy, inadequate governance and the poor living conditions workers face. Cosatu's Matthew Parks joins us now for more. Thank you, Mr. Parks, as always, for your time. Tell us about the scale of Thursday's protest. How much support have you received from workers so far?
Good evening. Thanks for having us. No, we've been quite overwhelmed by the support we've been receiving from our members. Cosatu's got nearly 2 million members across all sectors of the economy. They've been really responding quite positively. Our unions have been mobilizing throughout the country, our provinces and locals too. But we've also been quite heartened by the huge amount of support we've received from ordinary workers outside of Cosatu, workers who belong to other unions and federations who come to ask us, can they join it? And I think the simple message is yes, all workers are allowed to join it. It's a legally protected strike. There's a strike certificate issued by NEDLAC, so no worker can be punished by the employer for joining this strike. And really this strike is a chance for workers to express their frustration, their anger, their disappointment, and the demands to government and to the private sector that the workers are expected to do much more. We can't sustain a society where we have a 42% unemployment rate, workers who are drowning in debt have lost wages, where employers choose to undermine collective agreements in the public and the private sector, where the state has been run into the ground because of corruption, wasteful expenditure, mismanagement, even municipalities collapsing. Where the economy is limping because of load shedding, because of cable theft, crippling transport and metro rail. So really it is a message to government and to the private sector. They need to do much better, much faster. Workers can't sustain this level of impoverishment, inequality and so forth. And we are simply running out of time as a nation and as a country.
So protests are often the last resort when talking and formal channels have failed. But how do you see such a protest making a real difference to the lives of South African workers?
Yeah. So look, we appreciate in a democracy that you don't have a 5-minute conversation. These are huge issues we're pushing. They will take time to respond, but as a trade union federation, we have to continue to put pressure on government and the private sector. We have been raising these issues many, many times. In the alliance, at NEDLAC, at Parliament, in the media discourse, in bilaterals with government, with business, and the bargaining councils and the workplaces, etc. But until we resolve them, until we ensure that we don't have an unemployment rate of 42%, we have an unemployment rate of perhaps of 3%, until we can ensure workers earn a living wage, that corruption is being dealt with, that people steal from the fiscus or from companies are put in prison, until we manage to overcome poverty and load shedding and cable theft, until we resolve all these many issues, we'll have to continue to put pressure as Cosatu on our allies in government, on the employees in the private sector, because that is what we're meant to do. We know that it will not happen overnight that resolve all these issues, but there are tangible things we are saying to government. For example, can we increase the SRD grant to the food poverty line? Can we extend the presidential employment program to accommodate at least 2 million unemployed participants actively? Can we ramp up the infrastructure program to help stimulate the economy? Can we put in additional measures to support ESCOM to end load shedding? But also critically, can we put in measures to assist Transnet and Metro Rail, which are really collapsing under the impact of criminality and cable theft, neglected in the infrastructure, etc. So many, many issues we have to push. If we can address these issues, and they're not very complicated issues, they might cost a bit of money, they require political will, but if you can implement them, then the economy can pick up. We saw last year how resilient the economy was when unemployment fell by 4%. So it really requires political will from government to move with the greatest of speed, but it also requires a bit of sobriety from the private sector, from organized business, to realize that government on its own can't do everything. The private sector, the banks, the big retail companies, the money industry also has to play its role and also help reduce unemployment and stimulate the economy. We're all in the same boat together, and none of us can afford to sit on the sidelines and hope that others will somehow pull off miracles.
You're not only hoping to send a message to government about crime and to the private sector about economic growth, but also to banks and the Reserve Bank about the burden of inflation on poor workers.
Yeah, so we understand the mandate of the Reserve Bank to manage inflation. No sane person wants to see inflation get out of control, because that pickpockets workers of the small little salaries, makes it difficult for them to take care of their families, to pay for electricity. But for us, the cause of our inflation crisis, and it has begun to dissipate a little bit, has been because of the international oil price volatility as a result of the war in Ukraine. So that's not a South African factor. but it has pushed up the fuel price, the electricity price, and so forth. But the response of the Reserve Bank, for us, we believe is too far, it's too extreme, it's counterproductive. We've had a 500 basis point repo rate hike in the last 18 months, and all that has done is to make life more miserable for workers who are now struggling even more to pay off the debts, to pay for food, and so forth. On the other hand, you have Eskom, which, because of endemic levels of corruption and mismanagement and wasteful expenditure at all levels, has imposed an 18% hike this year in the electricity prices, a 12% hike next year, and no worker salary has kept pace with these levels of increases. So for us, we need government to address the fundamental cause of inflation, which is the fuel price, electricity chaos, and so forth, and not to simply outsource its responsibility to the Reserve Bank, which then basically uses as one tool in the shed, which is to jack up the repo rate. And that makes the crisis worse. It suffocates the economy, it bleeds workers, and if workers don't have enough money, how are they going to buy the goods that our companies produce and that our companies hope that society can afford to buy for them to grow and sustain themselves?
Before I let you go, it's a nationwide protected strike, but I'm presuming there is a protest action connected to that. Where can we expect to see your members marching?
Sure. So our members obviously live throughout the country, so we're having marches and strikes, the strikes throughout the country. Marches also will take place in all 9 provinces and all major urban centres, from Johannesburg to Cape Town to Port Elizabeth to Durban, across the country. And we encourage all workers to join those marches where they can, to wear their T-shirts and so forth, to create a vibe. We're confident they will do so. And obviously workers who are not close to those centres, then of course for them to stay at home. And again, all workers are legally protected. This is a constitutional right. No worker can be victimized. And if any worker is threatened or harassed or bullied by the employer, they should report those employees to Cosatu so we can assist in defending these workers.
Thank you so much for your time. That was Cosatu's Matthew Parks talking to us about Thursday's nationwide strike action.